Hey guys, welcome back to Uncle Fresh Reef. Today we're going to talk about quarantining fish, and as you can see I got my first round of fish that's going to be going in the 90 cube. The 90 cube has had some issues, that's why you haven't seen a video for quite some time. I'll get into that in another video, but today I wanted to talk about these two fish, and I've had them now for a week, and today is going to be the second day of copper treatment. So I've been ramping up copper slowly, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But I wanted to introduce you to him first. This is my whitetail bristletooth tang, and as you can see here, he is pretty active. Doesn't have the color that I hoped he'd have, but because of the salinity and because of not being happy in a 10-gallon aquarium, he hasn't colored up yet. And the other addition is going to be this little flame angel who's playing hard to get. But I really like this guy. He has a lot of red on him, just very, very bright colors. And he's finally come out. So I couldn't be happier with this little guy. And I got these two from saltwaterfish.com. They had the whitetail bristletooth on sale, and I couldn't pass it up. I had already intended on getting a bristletooth because of only having a 90-gallon aquarium and not wanting to go with a zebra soma or a larger tang. The bristletooths are smaller and can be kept in a smaller aquarium, of course. The yellow-eye coal tang is probably the most common of the bristletooth tangs. They're more available and at a lower cost. This guy right here retails at about $250 when you can find them. They're not very common. They do come from Tahiti in the South Pacific, but they do come in at a larger cost. So I was able to pick him up for $150, and with that $150 I got the free flame angel, which I had already intended on getting. So it worked out great. So you could almost say that I got the whitetail for $75 and the flame angel for $75, which is a little high or a fair deal for him, but I was able to specify what I wanted, and I got exactly that. So I'm hoping, because he is little, hopefully younger, and he's going to go into the tank without any corals on it, that he will take to food and leave other corals alone, as they do have a reputation of nipping at corals and being reef unfriendly. But a lot of other people have them, and it's hit or miss with these guys. Okay, so let's talk about the equipment in his quarantine tank. Backing up, it's a 10-gallon aquarium that I had. I've got the hood for it. I did replace the incandescent bulbs with some desk lamp LED lights that I got from Walmart. These are 40 watt each, and they were $5. So pretty cheap for something I already had and repurposed. I had the cobalt heater already. I bought the dual sponge filter right here, and I let it sit in my display tank for probably a month, and I think it has some bacteria in there. I did dose the aquarium with, or the quarantine tank, with some Biospira as well, so it's definitely got some biological filtration going on. I have a couple of 2-inch PVC pipes. I liked the T PVC pipes. It gives them a couple different ways to come in and some different angles to hide. I also have a Seachem ammonia alert badge, which is very important. I'll talk about that in a minute. I've got a little power head here to create some flow. It's not going right now because I just got done feeding them. And I've got a temperature probe. Currently I'm running it in between 76.5 and 77. I like to keep the temperature down in the quarantine tank. Helps for oxygen content in the water. And also the salinity right now in this is 0.1021. That's because that's how the fish came in. So I elected to move the salinity in the quarantine tank to match the fish salinity that they were used to keep the stress level down. Ideally, I keep my display tank at 1.026. So that's a little bit about my quarantine setup. There's no rock, there's no sand, there's no substrate whatsoever. You don't want to run any of that. Very simple, very easy. I've got 2 sponge filters for biological filtration. Got some air bubbles in there coming out to create some more oxygen exchange at the top of the water, nitrogen exchange, excuse me, and got a heater there. So very inexpensive to keep a quarantine tank. So let's get into all the different chemicals I bought and what I ended up using. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see here, got quite a bit of things going on, a lot of chemicals that I bought, and I did a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence to suggest different methods of quarantining fish. But at the end of the day, I found the best information, or the information that I learned the most from, on the Reef to Reef forums. Humblefish and Mel Y 1985, I think her name is, provided a lot of content that really made sense. So I got to give them full credit for the learning curve that I went through to best take care of these fish in quarantine. So what did I end up putting in the tank? So after researching the two fish that I have, the angel, the dwarf angel, are very sensitive to copper. So at first I wanted to go with the Seachem copper mine, which you see there on the far right, and as it is a different type of copper, and from what I've read is probably more effective. As a result, it does carry a lot lower parts per million in the water column. So for me, it was a little too risky, and on the forums and through other people's experience with it, it seems like the copper mine is a little bit too harsh for what I wanted for these guys. So I did spend a week with them in this quarantine tank before I even put medication in there, just observing them, making sure that there was no ick, any type of parasites whatsoever, flashing, any type of abnormal behavior, and they displayed none. So what I did is I went with the Mardel Copper Safe. It was discussed and generally thought of to be easier on the fish. And with these two different treatments of copper, they do have two different types of test kits. This is going to be very important and something that is sometimes missed by people starting out quarantining fish, is that these two copper treatments are different, and they do require different test kits. The other thing is, once you start your copper treatment, your normal testing is not going to be accurate with the copper in the water column. So you have to use the Seachem ammonia badge to detect any types of spikes in ammonia, which is going to be very toxic for the fish. So these couple things are really important to know, and you also have to be very careful about the fish you keep and what you're treating them with. Now, if these came in from like Petco or somewhere else loaded with parasites and potentially worms, I would have treated them with the copper mine and the ProziPro, ProziPro being for worms, and treated them with those simultaneously, just to try to eradicate them, to give them the best chance of surviving. But in this particular case, I chose not to do the ProziPro until afterwards. So I'm going to treat them for 4 weeks with the Copper Safe, and just to make sure that there isn't any parasites, there isn't any ick. I don't believe there's any velvet. It would have presented itself, I would have thought, by now. It's been a week, and they are definitely healthy, and they're definitely eating. So that's a little bit about the copper treatment and the way I'm going to quarantine these fish. I do look for them to be in quarantine for 6 to 7 weeks. They've been in quarantine under observation for the first week. The second week, I'm starting ramping up on the copper. I'll talk about that in just a second. And then on the, it's going to be the 6th week, they will come off of the copper, and then I am going to treat them with ProziPro as a final precaution to make sure they're completely healthy before they go in the display tank. So that's how I'm going to do it. You can treat ProziPro with the copper. I didn't want to go that extreme and do it that way. You can treat them first, or you can treat it after. Doesn't matter. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. And right now, as I said, I'm going to put the second dose of copper in there. This is a 10-gallon aquarium, and with that, 4 gallons requires 5 milliliters of the copper safe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ramp up using 2.5 milliliters of copper safe daily and observe and make sure that these guys are as happy as they can be with that much copper inside the aquarium and the water column, because it is toxic, and of course they're not going to be happy. These medicines are known to suppress their appetite, and I have tried a variety of different foods with these guys, and I've come back to this. They seem to really like the omega-1 pellets. At first they were just busy hiding and minding their own business, but they've come to really take to this pellet food. Now I've got some mysis, some frozen mysis that I was feeding them. I did get it from Petco, and all they had was the I think it was the California brand. It comes from China. It didn't look all that great, to be honest with you, but the Flame Angel did pick at it, but just really wasn't that impressed with it. And then the Tang, it same way, it would eat some and then spit it out and then go back to doing what he's had a great time doing since the 3rd day, and that's fighting with his reflection in the glass. So I did tape some white paper on there to try to curb that. Hasn't helped. I don't really see it as a big issue. I think it's keeping him busy, it's keeping him active. I know it's got to be pretty hard inside of a 10-gallon aquarium for these guys. So he is swimming around and you know, kind of exploring the small space that he has. This isn't all day every day, so until it becomes a problem, I think I'm going to let him keep doing this, and the lights stay off for the most part. So yep, so that's that. And I do have a secret weapon for the reflection battle if it becomes an issue. I saw in another forum that the drop ceiling light plexiglass, there at Lowe's, it was $10 for a 2x4 sheet, and somebody had cut it and put it inside the aquarium, and it's cracked ice. So that's the type of plexiglass it is. It's very thin, very inexpensive, very easy to cut. And like I say, if it becomes an issue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that inside there, and that ought to suppress his reflection, and he should go back to being bored in a couple PVC T fittings that I have. So all in all, it's going pretty well so far. I am very nervous about putting copper in there. I debated about it for a long time, and at the end of the day, I want the fish to be healthy, and I do feel that they are very strong. They're eating, and that quarantining them and treating them with copper is going to be the best for all the inhabitants of my fish aquariums. So that's going to wrap this up, and I think what I'm going to try to do is do some more daily vlog stuff. I'm going to call this episode How I Quarantined. I'm not necessarily going to call it a how-to or anything like that. That's just how I did it. And again, I can't be more appreciative to the folks at the Reef to Reef forums. The user Humblefish has just done an outstanding job of providing outstanding information and allowing everybody to access it and being very visible and helping people out. So thanks to those guys over there. I hope this video helps some of you. I hope you got a first-hand look of how I'm quarantining my fish, and I'll have a lot more content to come. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. Questions, comments, concerns, rude gestures, leave them in the comment sections. Please like and subscribe. I would love to get more people involved with my channel, interact, and get other ideas and tips from you guys as well. So again, this is Uncle Fresh Reef signing off.